Track and field is definitely a sport that struggles for attention. With all those mega superstars like the Djokovic, the Serena Williams, the Tom Brady's, the LeBron James that other sports enjoy. We're not even going to start to talk about Ronaldo and Messi in football and all those other superstars that does come right at the top of your head when you think about athletes. And we lost our biggest superstar in 2017 when he retired, and that's going to be Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt was a mega star. And you know you're a megastar when you go into the mainstream. There's sports stardom where everybody within that sports knows you, and there's stardom where everybody in the world knows you. I mean, I'm talking to people who's never watched a track and field race in their life, and they could still tell me about the fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt. You know you made it as an athlete when they're singing about you in songs. They're making reference to the fastest, and when they think about fast, they think about Usain Bolt. I always thought about Sprint. The phone company never signed Usain Bolt. I felt like this was a marketing match made in heaven. I mean, the fastest man in the world, Sprint, the phone service, you like it to be speed, internet. I mean, anyways, I don't want to give away all my good ideas. Let's talk about the 5 most marketable track and field athletes in the world right now. And remember, this is my opinion. You could always give me your top 5 in the comments. And I'm not going to give you any particular order, just going to give you 5 and I'll be talking about it and why I think these are some of the most marketable people in track and field. And they all have such different personality. I think this is going to be an interesting list because contrary to popular belief, performance isn't the only thing that makes you marketable. A lot of people think you go out there, you just run the times and everybody knows you. That's not necessarily how it always works. There's a lot of other things that goes into it. There's a lot of gym influencers who aren't athletic at all, but they are super popular, more popular than Olympic champions, and even probably make more money too, just because they know how to maximize their brand and show companies that, hey, this is the value that I can bring and this is how we can have a better deal. So let's start with the first person, Gabby Thomas. Gabby Thomas is great because she has a story, right? She's a Harvard grad who's also an elite athlete. She went out there and got an Olympic medal last year in Paris, and you can see her all over the news making a lot of stories, and she knows how to work that. I mean, she's smart. She went to Harvard, right? She's one of track and field's most marketable person because she knows how to work the camera, take those interviews, and sell her story about what makes her special. And she's also a really good runner, and that doesn't hurt also. Gabby has one thing in common with a lot of other people that I'm gonna name. She's American, and she's in one of the biggest markets. And once you're taking over the American market, then you've taken over one of the best markets because not only is it one of the biggest markets in the world, it's one of the most profitable. American people are consumers, so they're most likely to buy and most likely to consume anything. This is why people sell to them because this is a market where you can skyrocket your profits. Next up on the list is going to be Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, one of the most marketable. And this is one of the persons that I was talking about when I talked about personality, because obviously Sydney is not somebody who's like, oh, in front of the camera, working interviews and doing, she's very low key, but her world records speak very loudly. And one of the benefits that Sydney has is that she's been a superstar since she was a kid. One thing that I've noticed is that once you were a star when you were younger, you've edged into people's mind and they've seen your growth. So they kind of have attachment to you to say, hey, damn, I've seen this person move from being this child star to being one of the youngest Olympians to now being an Olympic champion and a world record holder. So she's edged into people's heart. And a lot of people love that humble personality about her. How she's just simple. She doesn't like being in the camera, but I have seen a push from her. She has a book, so she's maximized her personality and the love that people has for her. That's part of being marketable too. Being able to tell your stories in different ways. Not a lot of track athletes have books. And Sydney McLaughlin definitely wrote one and people loved it. And I think that goes towards her personality and it goes to how she wants to talk to people. But I have seen recently where she's putting herself out there. She's not maximizing on her personal brand and she saw that she has to start doing that now. So I'm glad to see that she's doing that. Next person is going to be one of the persons that I might think is the most marketable out of this list. I don't have like a specific amount, but if you could guess right now, the most marketable person in track and field, a lot of people would say it's Sha'Carri Richardson. Much for the same reason as Bolt. Because a lot of people who are outside of track and field knows her and they're cheering for her. Her story came out in the 2021 Olympic trials when she made the team, but she didn't get to go because of the weed. And a lot of people felt like, you know, that wasn't that serious to not have her go to the Olympics. But that story ended up being the thing that pushed her into mainstream. A lot of people felt like she was slighted by that decision, but she came back and she won the world championships. So that story is a crazy one, knowing that she defeated something that was trying to put her down. And of course, she talked about her story with her mom. A lot of people can relate to that or empathize with that. And her marketability has been crazy. If you look at all the commercials, I think she's been the most commercial track and field athlete since Usain Bolt, easily, right? If you look at commercial season, mainstream commercials, I've seen her doing collabs with Kanye. That's huge going in there. And she's one of the biggest athletes in sports. People outside of the sport have been saying, hey, Shakiri, they know her name. And I think that's helped with her marketability. It helps that she's also signed with Nike, the biggest brand in America, to the biggest audience, as I just spoke about. And she has an outgoing personality. She recently signed with Atlos to be one of the faces of the meet. They're planning to have a league and they're going to have teams, and she's one of the captains, along with Gabby, who I've just mentioned, and another person who I'm going to talk about later on in the video. So make sure you stick around to see who's the next person I'm going to bring up. The other person I got to talk about is going to be the obvious one, Noah Laws. And he's one of the persons that he's probably the most outgoing on this list because he's someone who just goes out and tell people what he's going to do regardless. A lot of athletes do not want to say, oh, I'm going to win this, I'm going to win that, because they do not want people coming back and said, hey, I thought you said you were this or that, or you going to do this or that. But he goes out there and he says it. And the crazy thing about Noah is he actually does it. I mean, in the World Championships, he got beaten so much time in 2023 prior to the World Championships. And he said, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get this. And he went out there and won the 100, 200, and 4x1 for America, coming away with 3 gold medals. I mean, after that, for me, I'm just like, hey, you did everything. I know that's impressive. A lot of people don't really understand the magnitude of that, but that's a hard thing to do. I think everybody saw Usain Bolt doing it multiple times and just kind of say, oh, that's the standard, but it's really not. It's a great achievement that Noah did, and he's just maximized that. When he said the world champion of what? I mean,
world champion of what? The United States?
honestly, that's probably one of his most marketable moments because that brought the basketball players to talk about him. For good or bad, that's really bringing him up. If you think about Floyd Mayweather, I mean, a lot of people don't like him, but guess what? He's still the most popular boxer and one of the richest, if you let him tell it. So the bad publicity, or as long as people are talking about you, really helps. I mean, last year at the Olympics, the basketball players actually came to the Olympics to watch him run the 100-meter finals. They wanted to see him lose so they could hate on him. But guess what he did? He went out there and won it. So that story was crazy and pushed him. So those basketball players have big names. So them coming to watch him, even though they're hating on him, still propelled his brand regardless. And it was even better that he went out there and won because now he can just say, nobody can talk. So Noah brand is huge. This is why he believes that he deserves a shoe deal. Whether he deserves it or not, or he should have it, it's all based on economics. I think if Adidas see a good deal here and they think it's going to be profitable, that's something that can be worked out. But, you know, that's a different conversation. But definitely Noah is one of the most marketable person. And I probably think people would want me to mention his name earlier in this video. And the final person on this list can definitely be tied to another person because they're like a brand together. Definitely in the running for the most popular because they go off into the mainstream in different ways. And that's going to be Tara Davis Woodhall. And you definitely can mention her husband along because they put their brand together. Because I've noticed that they even have a page that it's the Woodhalls. It's the both of them together where they make content together. The reason why I say they branch off into different audiences is because they're like the YouTube couple. People love those type of videos outside of sport, which is why I have to reiterate that the performance isn't the only thing. People want those stories. And Tara Davis and her husband give that story. Her husband for different reasons, Tara for different reasons, but people want to come and they want to see how they navigate life together, you know, how they move, you know, how they interact with each other. And I think that's fun. And this is why they probably signed to Nike because Nike saw that, hey, outside of just being great athletes, which they are, her husband went sub 46 recently in the 400. Tara is Olympic champion. A lot of people are watching them and saying, we love them as athletes, but they love their story even more. And Nike knows that, hey, this big brand, even outside of sports, is going to get people who aren't necessarily track and field fans to buy shoes because at the end of the day, brands are signing athletes to sell their shoes. That's the end goal. It's all about profitability. And Tara Davis Woodhall is somebody that has that big personality, much like Noah, in different ways, but it's definitely a personality that gets to people. And she was the third person that was mentioned that Atlos signed. So Atlos signed Gabby Thomas, one of the biggest names, Shakira Richardson, one of the biggest names, and Tara Davis Woodhall, one of the biggest names, to be the face of their league. And this is through Serena Williams' husband, Alexis. One of the reasons why he picked them is because they're some of the most marketable persons in track and field. And that's also why they were in my list of some of the most marketable people in track and field. Before I end this video, I have to talk about one thing. And if you're a stat person, it's easy to see what's a common denominator in my list. Most of the marketable people in this list were women, which goes back to what Alexis is doing, right? Instead of making a meet with men and women, he's just focusing on the women only because Even in my own list, it's pointed out that women tend to be more marketable. And if you want to reach a bigger audience, then you need the most marketable people. Of course, you got to pay them more money because, they got a bigger audience. This is just business here. But at the end of the day, just like Nike or Adidas or New Balance sign Ali because they want to sell shoes, Alexis is signing these women because he wants to sell tickets and they're going to reach the biggest audience. Noah is one of the most marketable men, but he's really the only one. Like, there's other big names in track and field like Kishane Thompson, Leslie Tobogo. But even Leslie Tobogo, by his own words, talked about not being as marketable as Noah. The men definitely need to step up in that case of making themselves more marketable, making their brands bigger. But for now, these are my five. Let me know down in the comments if you think this five just isn't legit or you think someone should be in there that I didn't mention. There's other big names. Of course, I want to talk about Shelly Fraser-Price. She's one of the biggest names, but I think she's one of those athletes that's big in track and field. And a lot of people outside of the sports is not going to know her. But I definitely know her. So, hey, don't take that personal, Shelly.